Okay, this is going to be a long one because I had a lot of good books. Uh, I feel like the space puns are a bit too much, but I wanted to have at least once when I have some kind of crazy hairdo. Yo, what up, and welcome to Arctic View. This is Josie, and today I have some cool books for you that I read in March. March was quite a good month for me, so let's just get started. I have a lot to talk about. The first book that I mostly read in February but finished in March was Stalin and the Scientists by Simon Inks. And I had read a book about science in Soviet Estonia before, and what it was missing was what happened before it got exported into Estonia. And this answers it kind of, sort of. So first of all, it's a proper history science book. It has so many references, it has so many sources, it's so well researched. It was really a fascinating read, but also very, very hard. For quite a while, I haven't had a book that challenges my vocabulary as much as this did. So I had to look up quite a bit. But then again, I'm not very into physics or genetics or whatnot. But this was really interesting. It talked a lot about genetics and one of the notorious scientists, Lysenko, who was against genetics. And this was referenced in the book I read in about Estonian science during Soviet times, and it referenced genetics that, oh, it's a forbidden science, or it had been stomped down. So this really talked about that, but so hard to read and so crazy. I mean, I'm not really into Hitler, Stalin, stuff like that. I'm really more of a like specific genre or everything that happened before 20th century things, history, events, and people. But this really kind of spun Stalin's image for me to like completely new level. Loved it, very hard read, but so worth it. Second book I read in March was Tell Me Again How a Crush Should Feel. And this is a young adult novel by Sara Farizan. This is about Leila, who is from Iranian background, and it was quite a trip. It's very easy, it's very fast, it has nice characters and one complete psychopath. Some relationships in your youth can end up like this, so maybe it's good if you read about it beforehand and you know what to look out for. But yes, just really nice young adult novel about falling in love between girls. The next book is third of the series, which I finished. And it's called The Stone Sky by N.K. Jemesin. It's the end of the Broken Earth trilogy, and I was just watching back some of my videos and where I talked about this particular series and this first book. And what I said about it then, about a year ago, was that it was so slow building, kind of boring. We were just getting to know the characters and this fascinating world, but we didn't get a lot of action. Now, this has all the action. This has so much action. I loved it so much. I really feel like this is written with so much more emotion, with so much rawness, and all the characters, the relationships really touch you in a very deep way. And I don't want to give a lot away, but this has very strong female characters. This has very strong world building. This is very satisfactory in my opinion, how it really wraps everything together. We get to know a character that we got to know in the first book so much more. It's kind of confusing in the second book where this character becomes more important, but here their story, Hoa's story, really comes together, and it's so satisfying. And this has won a lot of awards, and I feel like it's very, very well deserved. And this final book offers everything that I could have hoped. But yes, the story was that there are people, orogenes, who can move mountains, who can move tectonic plates, who can make people freeze or burst into pieces or whatnot. And the world is fighting against those people. So the Father Earth is fighting against it, against them, and so good. I don't know what else to say. I want to do a proper review of the 3 books of this series and just gush about it. And the author wrote that she had really hard time when she was writing this book in her personal life, but I feel like all those emotions are channeled so well into this that, yes, a total turnaround from the first book. I definitely recommend that series. And okay, two more books to go. Now the 4th book I read was How Many Moons Does the Earth Have? And it's by Brian Clegg, and it's basically science trivia. So I found this in the discarded books pile. Not discarded. I found this in discounted books pile for I think €3, and not sure why. But it's basically, it has questions, then some additional tidbits, and then the second page is the answer to the question in the previous page. And you can play with your friends, or you can read it by yourself. And I would say like 67, I would say like not 90% of the science went over my head, because I'm not a science person. I just read the science book, but the science history book. But this really has proper science, and maybe these things are really easy for a person who has studied science in university, and these are very known facts for them, but these were not known facts for me. I don't think I got not many questions at all right, but it was still interesting to read, and I'm pretty sure it will go just out from the other ear. Maybe someday there will be a pop quiz and there will be a science question, and I'll somehow remember the answer that was in here. Maybe. I will give this to my student who is really into science. I feel like I don't need to have this in my shelf, but it was a nice read for €3. The last book this month that I read, which was the 5th book, and this is what really shook me back into reading again, because my January and February were quite hard. And this is Dry. It's a book by Neal Shusterman and Jared Shusterman. Shusterman? Neal and Jared. It's a book by Neal and Jared, and a really great book to read right now when we have COVID-19 going around. Oh, so what am I talking about? The idea of this book is that the water runs out. Suddenly one day the taps run dry. Suddenly one day the taps run dry, and then it follows what happens to a girl, her family, and their neighbor, and some young people they meet on the way to trying to get out of this situation. And this spins out of control so fast. In 3 days, it's basically chaos, because if you think about it, if you don't have water, then things are not going to work for you. And we consume so much water daily, just not even drinking, but washing, using the bathroom, washing the dishes, cooking. And yes, there's a scene here where a mother tries to cook pasta only inside a tomato sauce, and yeah, that doesn't really work. But yes, what would happen if there was no more water, and no more water in the whole state and maybe states next to it, and the army gets involved. People are trying to go to bunkers, those who have prepared them, and just people lose their minds. Oh, it's so good. It's so interesting. I'm very glad to read that it has been picked up to be turned into a movie. As I understood, the authors, one of them or both of them, have been writing for TV series or movies maybe, but because it was very, very fast, very visual. This had multiple perspectives from all the, I feel, 4 or 5 cast members, and they were all very different, and they added to the story so much, and it was just so good. And it's young people trying to deal when their parents go missing, and with this ecological crisis that could happen. And I recommend this so much. So this is definitely my recommendation to all of you out of all these books that I read this month. So yes, these were the books that I read in March. I really loved a lot of them. I don't know why I keep doing this. But yes, this was my March. Wow, this video is not that long. Good for you. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a comment if you have any kind of thoughts about the books that I talked about. Hold up, be healthy, read a lot of books, and thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. This is so long. Bye!